Yes, I was fired from the company that I own. Well, sort of. Let me explain because I promise this makes sense, but first I want to explain why it matters. One of the greatest points of conflict in the workplace is between employees and employers. It's far from universal, but many workplaces have a bit of a prisoner's dilemma going on. If everyone just treats each other fairly, then things go pretty good. But that's if everyone treats each other well. Both employees and employers sometimes feel taken advantage of, so they start making it a zero-sum game. Instead of working together to make an arrangement that they're both happy with, they each start trying to take advantage of the other as much as possible. In situations like this, the employer does the whole, how can I get as much work and value out of this person while paying them as little as possible thing, and the employee does the, how can I get paid as much as possible while doing the least amount of work. When this happens, not only does it degrade trust for both the employee and the employer, but if either one, or both of them, get proven right, they carry the attitude forward. So then the employee goes to another new job, assumes that because their last boss was horrible, that this new boss will be horrible and treat them poorly, so they slack off, game the system, and take advantage of the employer as much as they can. Or the employer hires someone new and assumes that they're going to be lazy and unmotivated.
You're lazy and you're stupid.
So they minimize raises and bonuses and try to sneak extra responsibilities onto their plate without any extra compensation. Now, both of those things where people carry an attitude forward is mostly done subconsciously, but it still happens. Then that attitude just keeps spreading like a virus, and suddenly, boom, you have a widespread toxic culture across many different workplaces. Now, this can be avoided if both parties communicate effectively, build trust, and respect each other, which is what makes this next part weird, because now we get to the firing myself part. Here's the super short timeline. When I was in college, I started a digital marketing agency. We did work for local businesses and slowly grew, and then in 2020, I sold that agency to a larger media company. Part of that sale was an ownership stake in the larger media company, including a seat on the board of directors and a job for the next several years as the manager of the agency portion of the business. See, now I was both the employee as the manager of the agency who got a salary, and the employer as someone with an ownership share. And good news, the business started to grow. A lot. The bad news is that rapid growth takes a lot of money to hire people and build systems to handle all the new growth. It also takes a lot of time and work. And I was spending more and more of my time on my speaking career and writing books and other ventures like making these videos. One day I had a strange experience looking through the financial information of the company with the president, trying to figure out how to fund this growth without it killing us, because the money just wasn't there. And because I was looking at it through an owner's perspective, the answer quickly became obvious to me. There was one employee that just wasn't putting in near the time and effort necessary to justify their salary. And that employee was me. It was a little bit wild because as a person with bills to pay and a family to feed, I wanted to get paid as much as possible. It directly affected the quality of my life and the life of my wife and kids. But as an owner who wants the company to succeed so that I can pay every employee well, and also because I know that it will make my investment much more valuable in the long run, I want to set it up to succeed. And I knew with my attention split between my full-time job and my rapidly growing side hustle, I was the thing holding it back from success. So we made a plan for me to leave. Now, this is the point where you might start feeling clickbaited, because that isn't being fired. That's just quitting a job. And you're sort of right, except the details. Normally, when you quit a job, it's because you found a better option or because you hate your current job. It's a choice you're making, something you're doing to the company because it's better for you.
I hate this place! I quit!
When you get fired, it's usually because you're a problem. It's something that happens to you because it is better for the company.
You're being let go, your department's being downsized, you're part of an outplacement. We're going in a different direction, we're not picking up your option, take your pick.
In that regard, what happened is more like a firing. I didn't hate it there. I didn't have a better job lined up, and it was better for the company, not for me. It was more like firing. It's just that the person firing me was also me. But most of all, it was a bit of a wake-up call. A major reason I left is because I felt dishonest in the way I was treating the company. You can call it quiet quitting or whatever, but I wasn't giving them the work they deserved for the amount they were paying me. And I've had a lot of comments on my other videos that say something to the effect that companies take unfair advantage of their employees, so I would be completely justified in squeezing as much as I could out of the corporate bank accounts. And while there are plenty of companies out there that treat their employees poorly, there are also many that don't. And at this company in particular, I got to see it because I had a peek behind the curtain. I watched the president risk everything of his personally to provide for his employees as well as he could while still keeping the company alive. I saw the leadership working overtime and holidays, making incredible sacrifices that many employees may not have been aware of, so that nobody had to have their hours or pay cut, and that maybe some would even be able to get raises. If I stayed, I would have been the ultimate hypocrite, because I functionally couldn't be fired. Because of how the contracts were structured, they were pretty much obligated to keep me, which meant that if I had stayed and kept getting my nice salary while doing the bare minimum, my selfishness likely would have cost someone else their job. So the employer Dallin had to kick employee Dallin out the door because I wasn't doing myself, the company, or any of the wonderful people I was working with any favors. This is a much more personal and vulnerable story than I normally share here, but I share it because even in my videos, with my very reasonable commenters, I sometimes see people painting either employees or employers as the bad guy. And I had the unique opportunity of being both the employee and the employer in the same company at the same time. And if we're being honest, there is a gap in their incentives, but that gap can be bridged if both sides are willing to put aside their assumptions and work to understand each other. Bridging that gap may be one of the most important things we can do to make our work and the world a better place.